All right. Hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Courtney Laschkewitsch, and I am the Managing Director of Inventors Groups of America, and welcome to Inventors Online. If you're hearing me now, of course, you have made it in. Congratulations. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this very important meeting and topic today. A little bit of history about IGA before we get started. IGA was founded in 2017 by Stephen Key and Andrew Krauss, who are on with us here today. Our goal here is twofold. We want to teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups throughout the nation. We have a directory of local and regional inventors groups on our website whom we meet with every month, and if you are located near one, we highly encourage you to join. We would love to hear your name and what state or country you are from. So while we talk for a little bit, please go on over right now to that chat box on the bottom right-hand corner of your device. And please let us know your name, where you're from. Of course, per usual, please do not disclose anything that is confidential and not already publicly available. Just so everyone is aware, our meeting is being recorded. Of course, feel free to change your name in the participants panel. Choose to be in speaker or gallery mode on the top right at any time, and we encourage you to turn on your video. Of course, it is not necessary, but we would love to see you. We have placed our rules in the chat box up at the top as well. Now, after all that is over, here we go. So, when you first come up with an idea, how do you know it's worth moving forward with? What idea should you start with? How do you research it? How do you create an invention that truly sells? Before we go any further, I would love to introduce who will be speaking with us tonight. We have two wonderful guest speakers, so let's hear it, and feel free to click on the emojis and give it up for the amazing Terry O'Mara and Andy Barkin. How are you guys doing tonight?
Very well, thank you. That's a great introduction. Thank you.
There is.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This is going to be a really exciting meeting here, and there's going to be quite a lot of useful information and key takeaways that everyone's going to be able to leave here tonight with. Really personally excited for this one, so feel free to everyone to get a notepad and a pencil and get ready for our first ever Inventors Online live demonstration, or what we call workshops. So before we get started, just flash your hand in front of your screen if you are new here to the Inventors Online. If you've never been, all right, you got 1, 2, go to the next screen, 3, 4, 5, excellent. Wonderful. Well, welcome to your first Inventors. Oh, quite a lot, maybe about 10 here. That's fantastic. Well, again, welcome everyone. Before we get started, Stephen or Andrew, would you like to say anything before we go ahead and start?
Go ahead, Stephen.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I just want to say these guys are experts. I don't want to take up 1 minute of their time because we only have so much time here. So I'm going to leave it at that. You guys are going to really love this.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'm really looking forward to this myself. I know Andy's been in this business for a long time. He's classically trained as a pro at inventing and product development. So Andy, we're really glad to have you here. And by the way, he's got a product that I use every single day. In fact, I use it every single night. So Andy, maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, but thank you for your creativity. And Terry is just awesome. He knows his business from top to bottom. And I'm really happy to be participating or actually listening tonight. So I've got my pen and pencil. I'm ready to write down some notes. So thank you, gentlemen.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And then, of course, if you guys do have questions and we do have time after, feel free to go on over into the chat box. And if you haven't been here before, then how that works is you'll put in your question, and then we will go ahead and call on you, unmute you, and you can go ahead and ask that question, depending on, of course, how much time we have left. So now that we're ready to go, let's go ahead, and Terry and Andy, you can feel free and go ahead and start your presentation.
Great. I'm going to quickly share my screen here and share the presentation that it's very short as far as slides that we put together. But as Courtney said, we're looking to achieve a few things here in this meeting today, and how to come up with an idea. What idea should you start with, and how do you know what or if the product has merit? And so I'll turn it over to Andy, as he is truly the expert here, and I'll let him kind of talk through this bit.
Okay, well, thanks, and thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm very excited to be talking with you today. Also, love being on with Terry. Terry's personally helped me a lot. He's such a font of great information, and the guy knows everything about inventing, from concept all the way through licensing and products. So it's a delight to be on with Terry again.
Thank you, Andy.
So I just wanted to start with letting you know that inventing is typically something we do naturally. It's something that just happens, and it's really about training ourselves to identify what we're doing and then learn how to apply that to actual, what we would call the world of inventing, or the world of products, however you want to look at it. Usually the best inventions are when we're trying to solve a problem. We have something that bothers us. Sometimes we're not even aware it's a problem, and we think that classic, what if? You know, what if my wires behind my computer weren't such a mess? Or what if the dog coming through the dog door didn't bring in a ton of leaves every time? Whatever it is, that's kind of how we work naturally. And all of you who are watching this are all natural inventors. And it's really just training your brain. The brain is like a muscle, and it's really exercising it that makes you a great inventor. So the more you do this, the better you are. If you have one idea and you're a one-trick pony, it doesn't work so well. So I'm going to go through a couple of techniques of how you come up with lots of ideas, and then you can start to winnow them down. And Terry's going to talk with us about where we go from there with them, and then we can validate them and see if they're really great for inventing. So sometimes, you know, inventions are kind of frivolous. Think of a fidget spinner or Pokemon cards or something like that, right? You're designing for a market or for a particular thing, but then sometimes you really are coming up with a brand new idea. It's usually a variation on something else. And if it just happens, that's great, but you can also get it to happen. So what we're going to do now is go through a couple techniques to get it to happen. One of my first ones and one of my favorites are bug lists. Now, bug lists are just a way of coming up with things that bother us, because things that bother us are begging for invention solutions, right? So what you can do as I'm doing this on chat, you can actually type in what bothers you. I hope Courtney won't be overwhelmed.
Go for it.
You'll be as amazed at the number of things that bother you. I hate it when toilet paper runs out. I think of that because my wife does it to me all the time. She just did it. I shouldn't share that. I hate it when the dog finishes eating and then slobbers water everywhere when she drinks, right? I just, like, there's got to be a solution. And of course, I went to the store and I found one. So bug lists are a great way to get your brain working about this. And all you need is a short little line, right? I don't like the wires behind my computers. It is a classic one. I don't like the way my phone falls out of my hand when I'm texting, right? And immediately you start thinking, well, what if it was a friction surface? What if it was something that attached to the back of the hand? What if it looped over one of my fingers? And that's kind of how we get that muscle, that brain exercising and coming up with good solutions. So bug lists are one of my very favorites. Don't feel badly if you start coming up with a million ideas off your bug lists. There's a lot of things that bother us because it's a complex world. And that's a great, great thing when you have lots of new ideas, because then as you winnow them down, you can come down to some really concrete ones that are great and ripe for inventing. Another thing I would say is you need to think about empathy. Now, empathy in design hasn't been addressed all that much. It's something that's always very much interested me. We used to follow people around and ask a lot of questions. When I was in school, we would do that. We'd go to a hospital, and although you can't do it right now, the staff would love it when we walked around with them and said, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Sometimes fresh outside eyes can see things that others don't see, who are in it every day. You know, if I asked each of you who are watching, what color is your neighbor's house? You may not remember because we just have to block out so much information. But if we're walking somewhere, whether it's through a store looking at the shelves and the products on the shelves, or if we're in a pizzeria and watching what people are doing who are working in the back of the pizzeria, we can see things and ask them, hey, what about that can? Do you need a bigger can opener for that? Oh, what about that cheese? Wouldn't there be an easier way to spread it on top of the pizza? So having a bit of empathy and walking in somebody else's shoes is a great technique as well. And the third technique I'll share with you now is mind mapping. Now, mind mapping is a way of using paper and pencil, pen, marker, whatever you have, to come up with an idea when you don't necessarily have the idea, but you're interested in the area. So in other words, let's say you are very much into designing for the pet market, right? Huge market, fantastic thing to design for. That's a broad category. You have to kind of narrow down and say, okay, today I'm going to look at leashes. Leashes are kind of weird. And so you go to the local dog park if you have one, and you look, oh, look how people hang their leashes here, or look at how people bring their dog and how their dog tugs, and does it fit the hand? Where's the poop bags clip on? You start thinking about that stuff, and you come home and you do a mind map. You start writing down leashes and coming up with ideas. So when Terry and I were discussing this presentation, I said, okay, should we just come up with an idea? And Terry said, yeah. So my wife's family has these big holiday breakfasts. And as part of that, they make a ton of bacon. And so I started thinking about bacon. And I did a little mind map on bacon. So I'm going to just tilt my camera down quickly and show you a mind map based on bacon. Sounds a little funny, I know. Here it goes. Well, let's see if we can get this. And you can tell me if this is visible well enough.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Good enough? Okay. So this took me all of 4 minutes. Inventing, coming up with these ideas, this is not a long process in the beginning. In the beginning, you're looking for lots of ideas, right? So I just put a piece of bacon in the middle. I did this in a green pen because my kids took all of my black Sharpies, and it's just on a piece of paper, right? No computer, I'm not rendering anything, nothing. So I write down bacon. I just start writing ideas. Oh, it's about 10 inches long and 2 inches wide in the US when I buy it in a package. It's 16 or it's 12 ounces. Fresh is great. Most people buy it in a supermarket. How do we cook it? Well, at home we have ovens and griddles and pans and microwaves, and chefs in restaurants, they do it a lot of different ways because they have to do a whole lot of bacon at one time. So like they bake it, or confit, which is they actually pour it they put it in a pan and pour oil all over it. That's what you get at a lot of restaurants. Then they bake it for 20 minutes. Then they pull it out and it's kind of limp and gross. And then when you're ready to order it and you say, oh yeah, I'd like 2 eggs over easy with bacon and toast, they take the bacon, they throw it on the griddle, they put a press on top of it, and in 2 minutes it's done and you go, oh my God, I wish I could make this at home, right? And when you make it at home, what do you see? Smoke, grease. How do you keep it warm? Because sometimes it takes a long time to cook. My wife's family, it takes so long, we put it in the oven as we're going, right? Because we have to cook several packages. We do gas and electric. We do resistance cooking and convection. And down there at the bottom, I put induction. That's a great new way of cooking. For families, you know, 1 pound of bacon barely feeds a bigger family. And so when I started thinking about bacon, this is the first thing I did. I just kind of write down ideas. There's no invention in here, but there's a lot of things that lead to invention in here. And you can do this for almost any idea. So to show you what I distilled it down to, let me just turn it over here. Once again, old school. I'm just doing this on paper and pen. And research shows that paper and pen is helpful because it allows both sides of the brain to start to work. And this is a kind of a critical point. If you do this on a computer, it doesn't trigger your brain the way your hand does when it's drawing. So I use a paper and a piece of and a pen. I'll do rendering, I'll do design and engineering on a computer. This stuff's great on paper. So here, product features. What do I want? What do I want? What's going to solve what's bothering me? The bug list item for me. I put tabletop. I want it to fit on a tabletop. Right there, as a designer, I know, oh boy, that's a big issue because there's nothing more critical in a kitchen than counter space. That's a key element. I want it to heat top and bottom. Why? Because you're flipping over bacon all the time. You need to have direct heat on it. And the top just doesn't cook right if the bottom is the only, if you only have heat on one side of it. So over to the side there, I put heat and, oh, sorry, I'm reversed here. So I put heat and heat in the middle and heat here. That would allow me to put bacon in the middle. Ooh. You can see how often I do this. Would allow me to put bacon here and up in here. Now all of a sudden, in a smaller footprint, I might be able to get a whole pound of bacon on this device, right? And I'd like it to press. I want it to squeeze. Why? That's what they taught us when I was first cooking in restaurants. A press pushes it down on the griddle. That's what gives it that great crispness and the perfect cooking. I want induction. Why do I want induction? Because I want all three of those surfaces to heat. Induction is probably the easiest way to do it. I want a timer on it, and I want it tiltable, maybe adjustable, so that as it sits on the tabletop, the grease doesn't start to pour down. So just with that little bit of time, with that small amount of effort, thanks, sir. With that small amount of effort, I've already kind of distilled down what I'm thinking as a product to solve this problem. May not be a problem everybody thinks of, but it's a problem I'm thinking about. And so now I want to pursue this and figure out a little bit more about it. So I think at this point, I'll have Terry take over and tell you where to take it from there.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was terrific. I love that that you're doing that by hand. I thought that was a really interesting point you made with respect to kind of getting both sides of the brain working. I think that's really interesting. I didn't know that was the case, but I know that that's how it works for me in using paper and pen. So I think that's terrific. So Andy dialed in a lot of different things he was looking for to, hoping to achieve with respect to his product, and the strategies that he might use here to get going. And so what I did, and Andy, I had a bit of conversation about this up front, and what I did was kind of break this down to say, okay, so this is the idea starting point. And, he's been thinking about bacon, which I love. It made me want to go have a BLT. We looked into, okay, what is it that you need to know about this product category before you get in? Does this even make sense to get started with? Well, sales are very high right now because people have been cooking at home for their families during COVID. And so trends, this area here, current and long-term consumer trends, that kind of plays into it. That's a trend that's taking place now, but heck, bacon's been being cooked forever. And so that's something that's going to be really important. And they're working from home, so they're spending more time cooking. So the problem, as Andy identified, is the fact that there's you're only getting, typically with the things you're cooking bacon on these days, you're only getting 4 to 6 pieces on them at a time. They don't cook really effectively. You want to get that nice crispiness that he was talking about. And you want to create the best healthy way to cook it here. So I'm putting some parameters in place prior to doing my search, okay? So healthy is certainly relative with bacon, but I like to think of it as healthy. But the point of that is that we're looking to get this crispy results, but we're also trying to cook a whole package at a time. And part of what we're trying to do is to eliminate the microwave option, just because of the plastics and leaching of chemicals and so forth that people get, are honestly concerned about these days. So I'm going to go into doing a little bit of searching here to give you an idea. Say, how do we do this up front to determine, does this even make sense to go forward with? Is this, the idea sounds really good. His thought process in getting to that place was terrific. The question is, well, does this actually make sense for us to move forward with as an inventor if we're looking to make money on this product? Is there a big enough marketplace for this? Is there going to be demand for this? Is there too many products in the marketplace to where maybe the marketplace is so packed that it's really not going to make a whole lot of sense for a company to invest in something new in that space? So we're going to look into some of these things and get an idea for, does this make sense to move forward with? And that's what we'll do here. So I'm going to quickly switch my screen here and jump over to Google. And this is where we're going to start. So keeping Andy's kind of parameters in mind, cooking 1 pound at a time in the kind of the convenient, healthy, if you will, countertop fashion, we're going to look for some items that might be in this place, right? So bacon cookers is that first term I'm going to put in. Now, with this, what I tell you is you always want to put in a whole lot of different search terms. We're going to have about 20 minutes or so to go into this. And what I would typically tell you is this is going to take you a few hours, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on the depth of the category and the number of things that you need to look into. But we're going to start with something very simple, right, which is bacon cookers. Let's do a Google image search and determine, is this product already out there? We don't know. He had a great, brain mind mapping session there and really thought it through, but we don't know. Maybe this thing already exists. So we're going to quickly do that, and we'll see that, okay, there's a whole bunch of options when you put in bacon cookers. One of the things that I do recommend that you do, and let me back up here and just show how this works, is if you put in a particular term, Google will give you other options, things that have been searched for recently that are really popular amongst other people searching in this category. So I often will take a moment here before I hit enter, and I'll just look at it and go, okay, what are they suggesting here? What are some of the other areas? So I would encourage you to do that. I would certainly encourage you, of course, to have paper and pen, have a tablet, have a document available to you that you can copy and paste things to so that you can really keep this research. We're not going to get into that today because we don't really have time to do it. But I would encourage you to do that, of course. So you can see there's a bunch of different search terms that other people have put in here that are popular, as seen on TV: ceramic bacon cookers, electric cookers, things of that nature. But we're just going to go back to my bacon cookers here, and we're going to take a look and see, okay, what's out there? Well, we can see that you've got this very interesting looking thing, ceramic thing with the bacon hanging over the edge. Based on Andy's parameters, here is a countertop piece. It doesn't take up too much space. It maybe has the ability to cook multiple pieces. Here's something that looks interesting to me. I might have to come back to that. Here's another thing, a bacon toaster. Okay, it's kind of along that same line of maybe being able to press it in on both sides. I don't know, but it's interesting. And you can see there's a lot of microwave-based things. Here's somebody that's done a microwave thing that does hold a bunch of pieces, the bacon wave. So while we're not looking for microwave-based things, what I do take note of there, and what I find interesting about that particular piece is that it cooks 14 slices at a time. So this is getting to what Andy was talking about. That says to me that people are looking to cook a lot of pieces at one time, not just the 4, 5, or 6 that you can typically get. So I like that. This is an interesting looking piece right here. Once again, not kind of the volume that we're looking for, but it does have the ability to cook, certainly remove the grease as it flows down. Looks like it might be an induction type heating element inside of it. It's small footprint. And then it looks to me like there's some kind of a stainless steel top that goes over. So maybe that's even cooking it on the top side too. I don't know, maybe it helps me avoid that. So those are things that Andy talked about that would make me go, okay, that's worth looking into a little bit to determine if it makes sense. So that's how I would start with a Google image search. I would really spend a fair amount of time looking down through here, seeing what's available, seeing what other people are doing. One of the things that I do recommend for people as you're going through this process is to look at search lists. You'll see the 3 best bacon cookers in 2021. You'll usually see these top 10 lists. One of the things I like about top 10 lists is that somebody's done a lot of the research for you already. They've identified what are good and bad about these products, so it can help you take some shortcuts to learning some things about the product. And I think that can be really beneficial. So that's really kind of doing the image search. Now, from there, I'm going to jump over to shopping. I want to see do a Google shopping search. Google Shopping pulls up in a couple of different ways. It depends on how you have it sorted. Some people will have it sorted as a list like this, but it's really kind of more effective to have it as a grid where it shows you multiple items across each side and allows you to see more stuff quickly and get an idea for price points and a variety of other things. One of the things I love about Google Shopping for doing a search, an initial search, is this side over here. On the left, you can see that it gives you price points. You can choose by price point, which is terrific. And then it gives you brands. This is a great way to get a hit list started of the companies that you might reach out to, and potentially give you some valuable information as to who are the top brands out there right now and what are their products, so that you might do some searching when we get kind of the next step, which is doing a quick Google patent search for products to determine if they're out there already. But it does give you some search terms that are just really helpful and beneficial as you're doing your search. So back to Andy's kind of criteria here, the idea of having it pressed. Well, these look interesting to me. They look like they might be pressers, if you will. And so I'm just going to quickly click on one of those and take a look. Let's see what this is. Well, this is something that's pulling up at the Home Depot, obviously, and it's going to give me some pictures. Hopefully, these things are coming in at a size that's decent enough for you guys. But okay, so they have a bunch of different things they're going to show on their grill. They're not showing bacon at this point, but they are showing other things that are cooking. It's got some removable plates. Okay, if this one flips over and it's flat on the other side, well, that's kind of to Andy's point of being able to cook on both sides. Maybe there's the ability to press it down and cook on both. It doesn't have necessarily an induction plate, as Andy was suggesting, in the middle that would cook both sides of the bacon and really effectively allow you to stack it so that you have double layers. I loved that idea, Andy, by the way. But it is kind of getting along that line, right? So what we know is that he's not off base at all right now. Where he's coming from, that looks to me like there's potential for something like that. So I'm going to take the time to look through a few of these or a number of these things when I do my my search and get a feel for how people are doing. This is that other one we talked about. I dig that. Very interesting approach. Dual-sided coating makes your bacon crisp in minutes. So that gets right to what Andy was saying. The difference is, though, this is 6 pieces or 5 pieces. My math isn't so good, but it's 5 pieces. We want to cook a package, right? So that's an important aspect of this. So we know we're on the right track. We just haven't found quite the right thing to help us get there yet. And so I'm going to click on one more thing here. We'll take a quick look at that, get a feel for this. And once again, 6 pieces. Looks pretty cool in the way that it works, but I'm still not convinced that I'm not going to have to turn that thing over and cook each one of those pieces individually. And I think it's interesting, you see her lifting it off with her hand. How many people want to touch a hot surface with their hand and a piece of bacon? So that might not be the best solution, but we get the feel for where we're going with these things, right? With that, I would also encourage everybody to take a moment to jump in a few different websites. I wouldn't just use Google Images or Google Shopping. I'm going to go to Amazon too, and I'm going to look up other devices there too, right? So I viewed this one a little earlier to get a feel for these products, and One of the things I love about Amazon over Google is that it provides a couple of things that you just don't get on Google. Number one, I love the recently inspired or other products in this category related to this category. Real quick way to find additional information that you might find useful in your search. Also to find brand names and so forth. But one of the things I like most is when you look at any product really on Google, you can drive down through the information that they provide and you can get an idea as to where this product's selling and what people are saying about it, right? So in this one, we look at this product information in the best sellers rank area. You can see it's 193 in contact grills. First of all, that's a term I hadn't even considered, contact grills. Okay, so that's interesting to know. So what other things are in this top 100? And if you click on that, I should have pointed that out. When you click on that, it's going to take you to the top 100 products in this category, right? So that's terrific. It's going to give me an opportunity to review some of these different things and get a feel for how are things doing, what's selling well, what's maybe not selling well. I'm going to put in here what I talked about before, which is bacon cookers, and see what pulls up when I do that. Well, so we got a whole bunch of different items, and a lot of it is, you can see things for the oven, a lot of things that are microwave-based pressers, as Andy had talked about before. So just a whole bunch of different things. Let's cut that down and do a bit more of a more detailed search. So let's do countertop bacon cookers. Okay, this is getting a little bit more into what we were thinking as far as the different types of items, griddles and so forth. Okay, griddles, that's another thing that we hadn't really talked about as far as a term, but it's interesting. I like this because I like the concept of this, and maybe that this will keep both sides and allow people to cook more bacon or cook it quicker and more effectively. So I'm going to click on this one, Smart Planet Bacon Master Cooker. What I would tell you is that it's important to look at the ratings, right? So you've got 719 people that have rated this product from Smart Planet. And the statistics on Amazon are typically somewhere between 8 and 10% of purchasers leave a review. So let's just extrapolate that out. It's 10% and say 7,000 people have purchased this product through Amazon. Well, that sounds like there's a pretty good marketplace for it. So now I'm determining, okay, is there a marketplace for this type of a product? Sure seems like there is. There's a lot of products out there for cooking bacon, but this is more specific to the small counter space type item. And we want to know, okay, what do people think of that? If I was taking the time to do this on my own, one of the things I would do right away is I would go to the 3-star reviews. You got companies, unfortunately, out there that are paying for 5-star reviews, and you've got competitive companies out there that are unfortunately paying for 1-star reviews. Nobody's paying for 3-star reviews. And so what's great about that is that consumers give some really terrific information. They talk about, often they talk about features of the product or benefits of the product as what they anticipated. And they say, it did that, but it didn't do it great. Or, this broke, the second time I used it or within a certain period of time. Why that's important to me is because I'm in this initial iteration phase of designing my product. I want to know, what do people like and dislike about products that are out there currently? And if there's a trend, once again, get into the trends, if there's a trend that I'm seeing here that says, people dislike this particular aspect, it happens on a lot of different types of cookers and so on and so forth. Maybe it takes up entirely too much counter space. It's too difficult to clean. Things of that nature. Okay, then I'm going to include that in my consideration of my design. And can I design to solve those problems so that when I go to bring this to a company and see if they're interested in either licensing it or I'm looking to take this to market myself, I can include that in my marketing material and mention the fact that my product is better in this way. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to quickly jump off of that and jump into doing a Google patent search. Now, this is not a patent searching meeting that we're doing this evening. So I'm not going to get detailed in this, but what I would tell you is it's a really important, an important thing to do is to do a Google patent search, or a patent search. It doesn't have to be Google patents, but I do find Google patents is the easiest way to get going. So how would I search for patents related to what I'm interested in here? Well, I would typically start at Google itself, and I would type in something like, let's see, patents for countertop bacon cookers. Okay, that seems pretty random, but let's see what we get, right? Okay, well, here we are. So you scroll down a little bit and you can see, hey, there's bacon cooker, right? Bacon cooking apparatus for bacon strips. And then we're seeing US patent for microwave, bacon cooking aids, racks for cooking bacon. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here, right? There's a lot of potential prior art. And so what I'm going to want to know is, okay, what are these different devices that I'm looking at? I'm going to click on this one here, and I can see what I'll typically do is start with the pictures. We're all visual people. It's the quickest way to get some initial information that might make sense for you. And I can look at this and go, okay, this reminds me of that one that we saw. It was the DRTV product that had them all lined up kind of like cards, if you will, in a card index. So, okay, well, that's not really what I'm looking to achieve with my product. But if this was me doing this for real, I would be reading through this. I would read through the information, understand this product a little bit more. And then I would typically go to the bottom of the Google patent search, and I would look at the patent citations cited by, referenced by, and similar documents area. And I would read through the titles here to get a feel for what other things out there quickly can I find that might fall into this, right? And so you can see this is a wire support inner rack for aluminum roasting pan, disposable liner for cookware, portable grill. Okay, that might be a little bit more, closer to what I'm looking to do. So I might click on that and then get to that and go, oh, okay, here's kind of what we're talking about. It maybe is an induction method or something of that nature, right? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work through this process, and I'm going to look for the things that make the most sense or most similar to the product idea that I have and what I'm trying to come up with. And that is the type of thing that will take a little bit of time, straight up. I mean, it can be a rabbit hole. And so I encourage everybody to be very selective about the titles that they're going after, the keywords that you're putting in there to try and determine, does this make sense for me? Because you can spend, especially in a category as big as bacon cooking, you could spend days looking at things. You don't want to spend days looking at things. You want to get a feel for this. This is the initial stage of deciding, do we move forward with this product? So we're looking to find out, is there something very similar to what I'm doing? So that is kind of the quick gist of how we might go through that process. I'm going to switch back here. Let me switch back my screen and just share with you, as far as the presentation is concerned, what we were talking about there as far as online research. Some of the stuff that we would be looking for typically is how many products in the space. We know there's a lot, right? How many reviews are there? We talked a little bit about that. How many are there, and the 3-star reviews are giving us a specific area that we might want to take advantage of because we recognize the problem. What is the price range that's out there? Where are people willing to pay for these things? Just looking through, I can tell you there were price ranges there from somewhere around $15 to $300. Okay, that's pretty broad. But for the countertop items, most of those items are somewhere around $50 to $60, $70. And so does my product work for that? Could I do what Andy's talking about with respect to doing this middle plate with induction heating and so forth? Can we achieve that at a price point that's going to make sense for people that are looking to buy products for their countertops with bacon? Don't know. That's going to take a little bit more research to determine those types of things. And then, that leads to the manufacturing of things once again, too. Andy's idea is brilliant in the idea of cooking a whole pack of bacon stacked on 2 levels with induction cooking in the middle is awesome. But is it something that's going to be hard to manufacture? Is that going to be really easy to manufacture? And the easier, the better, right? The less expensive, the better, or at least as inexpensive as it needs to be in order to fit into that price range. So I'm going to be looking to determine those types of things. And then does the product have, or could it have, a wow factor? One of the things I love about Andy's idea there is, to me, that's a wow factor. If I can put a whole package of bacon on 2 separate levels and cook it super crispy and feed my whole family quickly, so that I don't have my kid phone going, yeah, I want another piece. Why does he get that piece? And that type of thing, it's going to make me really happy, right? That's kind of wow factor that's going to make a difference in selling your product. So those are the kind of things I'm looking for when I'm doing some initial product research. So hopefully that was really helpful to you all, and it allows us a few minutes to at least take some questions. And so, yeah, we'd love to hear from all of you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both Terry and Andy, for that amazing presentation. Before we go ahead and look into some questions here, Andy or Terry, was there anything else you wanted to mention? And same thing, Andrew, did you want to add on anything?
I thought that was absolutely amazing. I thought you guys did a great job.
Great.
All I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Andy, anything you wanted to go into expect that?
Yeah, I think with using what Terry has just presented, along with your basic ideas, you can really start once again to just increase the number of ideas you come up with. And that's going to be the key to success as an inventor. You can't be a one-trick pony. You got to just keep coming up with new stuff. And as you exercise your brain, you're going to come up with new stuff. And a lot of times you might go down this whole hole of a bacon cooker, and you might say, too expensive, or not quite the market I was hoping for, or who needs another appliance? Or you might say, wow, this is fantastic. I know there's a company out there that'll want to buy this. So just I never put my whole heart into any idea. I just try to keep moving, keep trying new ones.
But what I like about this is you're making those decisions with the marketplace in mind. You're not just making it how you feel, or it's the marketplace. How does it fit into the marketplace? And most inventors don't do that. And you guys are showing them to do that. So that's what I think is great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, good point. That is a really good point. I think that's what a lot of people do. They just come up with an idea that hits them. They go, oh yeah. Or they use the bug list approach. They don't even know they're using a bug list approach. They just know that bugs them. And they go, I got a solution for that. But they haven't even looked to see, is there a market for it? Are other people bothered by that same thing? Are there other products out there? Maybe there aren't. One of the things I didn't talk about is that sometimes you've got a great idea, but it's something where it doesn't make sense for a company to go into it because it's going to be either too expensive for them to do it, or it might eliminate a portion of their product line. I always like to talk about Dyson in his vacuum cleaner, because he originally pitched it to Hoover, the bagless vacuum, and they said no because they had a $50 million a year business in bags. Who wants a bagless vacuum? You're going to take away $50 million a year from it. So there's a lot of different reasons, but I do think that it's important to understand the market. Does this make sense for the market?
Great. All right, well, let's go ahead and open it up to some questions. Our first question here is from Neil Waldbaum. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Neil, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah, cool. I think you probably already answered my question, to be honest. I was wanting to know how you think when you come across a market that is truly saturated with solutions, like that bacon cooker, and there's lots and lots of different products on there. And, obviously you're looking for a wow factor in your product, but what is it that tells you, how do you get to the point where you say to yourself, okay, no, I'm going to drop it now. There's too many on the market. What is it? Whatever. What is it that tells you that it's time to move on?
Andy, you want to answer that? Let's take it, my friend.
Sure. Happy to. Well, Neil, there's a time when you get to the point where you have a feel for it, right? oftentimes I'll wander through stores and see if I can imagine my product on that shelf. And I think, yeah, that could work. Or I go online to like a Reddit forum and I say, hey, how are people going to respond to it? Or I even throw it out there and say, hey, what does everybody think about this idea? So you just want to kind of you want to make sure you don't go all in till you understand, as Andrew was just talking about, till you understand what that market is. And at some point you have to jump, with some faith. But if you noticed, there's a lot of places that will license these products. And one of the best things to do is be able to go to these big houseware companies, let's say in the case of the bacon cooker, and say, here's my idea. And you can already have done a provisional patent, and you could hop on some 3D software. There's lots of it out there now, and do a really great little rendering without a lot of experience. Right? Takes a fair amount of experience, but they'll get the idea. And you can say, what do you think? And now you have somebody whose business depends on these types of ideas. And they'll tell you, oh yeah, that's good. Or, something that's just overused, or it's way too big, come back if you have a new twist, or too high, too expensive in the market, or man, you get that to me at this price. You may not even be thinking of manufacturing, but you might have to tweak the design a little bit. So usually you intuitively get that sense of when to stop and lay it down. I've had a lot of products, they just exist in sketchbooks. And but once again, you got to get it out. You got to present it like on a piece of paper to yourself, and then you can move on to the next product. But if you like it and you show it to some other people that you care about, and they say, wow, Neil, this is really good, then you know you got something.
So ultimately it comes down to either market research or industry research and getting a response from them.
Yeah, you're not going to be the manufacturer, right? I mean, typically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You could be, but it's a difficult way to go. And so a lot of times you really want to get it to those leading people. I've been to trade shows where people are showing people in the booths, hey, is this a product that you would ever sell? And you can see everything they're selling at this trade show. And then you can see if already if it fits into their product line. You can talk to them and see. That's a great way to validate your idea.
Yeah, I also like the idea of walking through a store and visualizing that product on the shelves, because that helps you, I guess, get an idea of whether or not it fits there, if it sits within those categories, and if there's anything similar or totally different.
Well, and not to go too deep into this, but design of how something sits on a shelf is a critical element in a lot of product categories. I've had products where they've come to me and said, Andy, we need this redone, but it's got to fit on this size shelf. It's got to be, the box has got to be under this size so that we can ship it efficiently, and it can sit on the shelf and be seen on the end of the product, let's say, in a Target. And you go, wow, how am I going to get this thing to fit on a Target with an end of the box that gives the whole story? There's a lot of design that goes into that. And those are things you have to think about as the inventor as well.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Neil and Andy. Let's go ahead and see if Janice Moulton, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you, Janice. You can feel free to go ahead and ask your question. Give you another couple of seconds. No worries, I can go ahead and ask your question for you. Her question is, in this world of too many things with only one use, a bacon cooker, would it not be in our best interest to create things with multiple uses? I like to cook and have a lot of kitchen storage, and yet it is all full and not everything fits in my kitchen. I would rather have something with multiple functions to put in my kitchen real estate.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And what I would tell you is I think that certainly that has merit, and there's potential. That's the kind of thing I would, once again, I hate to keep coming back to this, but I would do more research into. I would want to research, or do other people feel the same way? Is that something that you're hearing others complain about when they're looking at single purpose items? Are you hearing people in perhaps cooking classes or cooking blogs that you're part of and talking about that same type of a thing. You know, counter space is so limited and it's so challenging that, yeah, could you find a way to make that a dual use product at the very least, and make it that much more usable for the average person? Yeah, potentially. I think that that's a good idea. What I would also tell you is, once again, it comes down to a bit, what is the marketplace demanding with regard to, or with respect to the components and the things that you're using there. Is that going to be too complicated for a manufacturer to make? And if it is, well, then that might create a problem for you. You know, if it's going to get too expensive because now you've added, it makes 5 different things, well, okay, that may not quite work, but it's definitely a good point, and definitely worth considering.
I would say that Janice started her statement off with "I would like," and "I would like" is a place to start, but it's not the place to end up. The place you end up is basing your opinion on what's in the marketplace, what is or isn't in the marketplace, what makes sense in the marketplace. At that point, what you think is irrelevant. You should be basing what you think on the research you did in the marketplace. So it's hard. You start off with what you would like, maybe, but you end up with what you think the market would like. That's what I'm saying.
Wonderful. All right, we've got an insane amount of questions, and a lot of them are really, really good questions. We'll see if we can get through a couple more, and then we'll have a couple other thoughts after that we'll definitely like to share with you. Our next question is from Pierce Mooney. Pierce, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and you can feel free to go ahead and ask your question.
Awesome, thank you. So I have a question about moving from the brainstorming phase to the market research phase, and removing bias, but at the same time revisiting the brainstorming, because obviously you don't want to, you know, see what's on the market and then just, you know, make another one of those. And I got the flow of starting the mind map first, but I'm just wondering, do you go back to the mind map at any point in time? And if so, is that like frequent, or how often?
Great question. Who wants to answer that? Andy?
Well, for me, the mind map is just a starting point. There's probably 10 or 12 mind maps easily per product I've ever worked on, because you're constantly redesigning, you're constantly rethinking. I mean, we haven't talked about so many factors in product design. So like to the previous question's point, like, oh, do we need more stuff in this world? Well, what's the end use for this product? How is it going to get recycled? Are there components that can be taken off? How are they recycled? What kind of materials are we using? And how can that be more environmentally sound? You're constantly changing that stuff as you're working this product up. Granted, for some products, certainly not all products, but a product like this, you've got to think about all those kinds of elements. And you really would love to think about manufacturing and the mechanical engineering and the product design, the industrial design of it. There's so many pieces that you're going to be doing the kind of the conceptual thinking that a mind map helps you with. You're going to do that fairly often within the process. But you do have to, you know, not get bogged down. You got to keep moving forward and do like the work Terry's talking about, so that you can say, hey, this is good. I feel it. I know it now. I've done a lot of this research. Let me go back and tweak it a little bit more for the market, and then see if this is what that market is looking for. I don't know if that helps you with your question.
Yeah, it's super helpful. Yep.
Wonderful. All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Pierre.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we're just going to get to one more question here. We're going to talk just really briefly about a couple other things. Our last question here is going to be from Andrew Darlow. Andrew, if you want to go ahead and ask your question once you are unmuted.
Yes, hello. This has been fantastic. Thank you. So here is my question. How do we determine market size? I know it's easy, like for things like cars and the number of people in households, but what about if you have something, but you just don't know how to find out about how many people are in that market, like maybe recreational softball or baseball players, or maybe even basket weavers? Do you go to industry associations? Is there some magic place that you do that research?
Great question.
Great question. And I would tell you, Andrew, yeah, you nailed it on the head. For starters, often it's the trade associations you're going to be able to is ability. List is sounds amazing. Is doing information into the stock and there's a lot of perspective out there that give you information about where that category is being, how big. There's like Bloomberg.com, BuzzFeed, things like that that talk to you about the category size players in that category, how large. Even of the product category, top players in a product category, and mention that category and see what pops up first.
I was having a little bit of a hard time hearing what you were saying. A little bit of
my breaking up as well.
Andy, do you want to go ahead and briefly answer that?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me well because I also hear it breaking up. But what Terry was talking about is that there's a lot of industry organizations, a lot of industry publications. There's an industry publication for everything you can imagine. I mean, if you're thinking about, you know, rear view mirrors for bicycles, there's probably an industry publication for it. It's crazy. And you can find those on Google. Trade shows, another great place to go. Go to a sporting goods trade show if you want to find out about, you know, recreational softball. You can also go to sites for, let's say, Easton, who makes bats, or Rawling, who makes gloves. You can talk there. You can usually from their websites even find out how many people are in those businesses that are working, and they will often have amazingly accurate numbers for the number of people that are out there because they see all the sales, right? And what you're thinking about is sales. So there's a lot of ways to find out the size of a market. Do not discount these industry trade groups because I can find out, you know, exactly how many widgets are sold by some group in Australia with just a little bit of web searching. And you can usually do a really good job of getting that kind of information because somebody out there has already researched it.
Wonderful. All right, thank you so much, Andy. We appreciate that, and you as well, Terry. Looks like we're coming to a close here. A couple things before anyone starts leaving the meeting here. One, we'd love to do a screenshot, and while Andrew goes ahead and sets it up, please feel free to type in your thank yous into the chat. We love being able to send that over to our speakers. Andrew will set up that in just a second. And then also we briefly want to mention 5 inventors groups that we are just going to sponsor real briefly, and Stephen will go ahead and talk about that just in a second. But for the screenshot, Andrew, are you ready to go ahead and give that?
Hold on just a moment. Okay, I got 4 screens here. I think only maybe 2 or 3 have on video. So everybody, when I say 1, 2, 3, raise your hand, get crazy, smile. There we go, 1, 2, 3, here we go. All right, now let me go to the second page. Nobody knows what page they're on. Looks like we only have to do 2 pages here. The rest of you are on video. Give me a second. Let me get the second page here. 1, 2, 3. There we go, we got it.
Wonderful. All right, so everyone please type in your final remarks into the, or your, oh man, everything is going on here. Please feel free to type in your thank yous into the chat. And then also I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly bring up a page here on 5 of the inventor groups. We did this last time as well. Stephen, if you wanna go ahead and just briefly mention what inventor groups are, because we did a poll last time and a lot of people are not familiar like exactly what they are, why they're around, and I'll go ahead and bring that up.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, Courtney. I know we have a lot of leaders on tonight, and I'm really happy to see some of the leaders of the inventing groups across the country. The best resource, that What I mean by the best resource, I mean by finding those local inventors groups that are in your cities and visit and join them. And the reason why I'm saying that, you're going to meet like-minded individuals. You're going to meet maybe people that can build prototypes. Maybe people will talk about patents, how to protect ideas. You never know who you're going to meet at your local inventors group. And I just want to tell everybody, please, if they're close by, I know they're closed now, but they're having their own Zoom meetings. So please participate, find them in your local town, join, meet people, because the advice that they're providing is at such a low cost, it's almost priceless. So I just want to thank some of the leaders that are attending tonight. And you can see some of the ones here. We have Leo, we have Calvin, Don, we've got them all. It's very important for all of us to stay involved, to work together, to help each other commercialize our invention. So I just want to say thank you very much, Courtney, for doing such a great job. And Andy, thank you very much. You know, you've been in this business for a long time. You are a pro. We didn't probably talk about exactly what you do. Maybe next time we can have you on, because you're the real deal, man. And I'm really glad you shared your information. Terry, thank you very much. You know this process frontwards and backwards. You're helping students all around the world commercialize their inventions. I cannot thank you enough. And of course, my partner, Andrew Krause. I don't think I'd be here today if it wasn't for Andrew. So thank you, Andrew.
Well, I just want to emphasize that was just a sampling of a few inventor groups. If you go to the IGA website, you're going to see a ton of inventor groups in all different states and cities. So make sure to take a look at that. And, you know, yeah, meeting on Zoom is not quite the same as in person, but, you know, there's a lot of benefit to meeting with people in your hometown. It's a very personable thing. And to realize, you know, you're not crazy. There's a whole bunch of people just like you. So, thank you, Andy, and thank you, Terry, and especially thank you for organizing the meeting tonight. I think it was a fantastic meeting. I think it was one of our best ever, and I want to thank everybody for their great questions too and attending.
Wonderful.
Thank you. If I could just say thank you, Courtney. Great job in getting this, and thank you, Andy, for coming together. It's always fun to spend some time with you, man. So, and then everybody else here, thank you so much for coming and participating, man. It was very kind of you to join us.
Wonderful.
Thanks, you too. Thanks, Courtney.
Absolutely. So thank you again so much, Andy and Terry, for speaking with us. And we hope to see you all in our next meeting so we can bring you more expert information in the areas you need help in. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.